When someone steps into your life, what's their purpose? Are they there to build you up, or do they come disguised, intending to break you down? Intentions, they're invisible until the moment you learn how to see. But what if I told you there are ways to expose a person's true motives faster than ever? It's not about playing games or living in suspicion. It's about awareness, clarity, and protecting your peace. Because when you let the wrong people get too close, they don't just leave scars. They leave you questioning your worth, your choices, and your path. This is about discernment, about looking past the surface. It's about understanding that actions reveal the truth louder than words ever will. You've got to become a student of behavior, not promises. The answers you seek are right in front of you. Ways in how someone moves, how they show up, and how they treat not just you, but the world around them. Today we're breaking down the fastest ways to uncover intentions, guard your energy, and reclaim your power. Actions speak louder than words. We've all heard this phrase before, but let me ask you something. Are you really living by it? Too often we find ourselves clinging to words because they sound sweet, they feel comforting, and they give us hope. But hope without action is empty. Words without follow-through are meaningless. Let me tell you something. When someone's actions don't match their words, you're not just dealing with inconsistency, you're facing dishonesty. And dishonesty doesn't just chip away at trust, it destroys it. So you need to stop focusing on what's being said and start watching what's being done. People will tell you anything. They'll tell you they care about you. They'll tell you they're there for you. They'll tell you they're invested in you, in your growth, in your well-being. But what do their actions say? Are they there when you need them? Or do they always seem to have an excuse? Do they show up when it counts? Or do they only appear when it's convenient for them? Real intentions aren't in the promises someone makes. They're in the promises they keep. Here's the thing about actions. They can't be faked for long. Words can be rehearsed, polished, and perfected to paint any picture. But actions are raw, unfiltered, and true. They show you the reality of who someone is and what they're about. If someone says they value you but never makes time for you, their actions are telling the truth their words are trying to hide. If someone claims they support your dreams but constantly belittles your efforts, their actions are exposing their lack of alignment with your vision. This isn't just about romantic relationships. It's about every relationship in your life. Friends, family, co-workers, anyone who has a place in your circle. Watch how they move. Watch how they prioritize you or don't. A friend who only calls when they need something isn't a friend. A co-worker who takes credit for your ideas but disappears when it's time to collaborate isn't a team player. And a partner who promises the world but delivers nothing isn't someone who values you. You deserve better, but you'll never find better if you keep excusing the gap between someone's words and their actions. Stop making excuses for people who show you time and time again that their intentions aren't pure. Stop convincing yourself that things will change when the proof is right in front of you. People don't change unless they choose to. And if their actions are consistently falling short, that's their choice, not yours. Now, this doesn't mean you need to approach life with suspicion or cynicism. Doesn't mean you should shut people out or question every word they say. What it means is that you should open your eyes, pay attention, look at the evidence. If someone's actions align with their words, you found someone you can trust. But if they don't, you need to recognize that and you need to act on it. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who kept telling his friend he'd help him build his business. Every week he'd say, "I've got your back, just let me know what you need." But when the time came for support, whether it was showing up to an event, spreading the word, or even offering words of encouragement, he was nowhere to be found. Excuse after excuse. And the friend, he kept holding on to those empty promises, believing that one day the man's actions would match his words. But they never did. And the friend wasted years waiting for someone who was never truly in his corner. Don't let that be you. Don't waste time on people who are all talk and no substance. Because here's the truth. The people who are meant to be in your life won't just tell you, they'll show you. They'll show up, they'll follow through, they'll make the effort, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's hard, even when it costs them something. So how do you navigate this? How do you ensure you're surrounded by people whose actions match their words? It starts with setting standards, high standards, standards that don't just demand honesty but require consistency. If someone says they'll be there, hold them to it. If someone claims they care about you, look for the proof in how they treat you. And if the proof isn't there, let them go. This is about valuing yourself enough to demand what you deserve. It's about understanding that your time, energy, and heart are not to be wasted. You are not a second option. You are not a convenience. You are not someone who should have to beg for what should be freely given. And remember, this isn't about being perfect. None of us are. People will make mistakes, they'll fall short, but the difference between someone who values you and someone who doesn't is this. When someone values you, their actions will show effort, not excuses. They'll own up to their mistakes and make it right. They'll prove through their actions that you matter to them. In life, you'll encounter all kinds of people. Some will build you up and some will tear you down. Some will love you and some will use you. And the only way to tell the difference is by watching how they move. Because while words can deceive, actions never lie. Actions are where truth lives. Actions are where intentions are revealed. And actions are what you need to focus on if you want to live a life surrounded by people who genuinely care for you. In this life, there's one thing you need to understand. Silence speaks volumes. Sometimes the loudest statements aren't made with words. They're made with restraint, with composure, with stillness. When you stop chasing someone, stop running after their approval, their validation, or their attention, you send a message they can't ignore. And that message, it's powerful. It says, I know my worth. Hey, it says, I'm not going to beg for what I deserve. And let me tell you, when you move with that kind of quiet confidence, the world takes notice. You see, when you're constantly reaching out, constantly explaining yourself, constantly trying to make someone see your value, what you're really doing is giving away your power. You're letting them know they can dictate your emotions. You're letting them know they can control your peace. But when you stop, when you pull back and let silence do the talking, that's when the dynamic shifts. That's when you regain your power. People often don't realize what they have until it's gone. It's human nature. We take things for granted. We assume people will always be there, always be available, always be willing to give, no matter how little we give in return. But when you step back, when you stop putting in all the effort, it forces them to face the reality of their actions or their lack of action. It forces them to see what they've been taking for granted. And here's the thing, silence is not passive. Silence is intentional. It's deliberate. It's a choice to stop wasting your energy on someone who hasn't earned it. It's a choice to protect your peace, your heart, and your well-being. Silence is strength. It's resilience. It's the ability to say, I'm enough, whether you see it or not. Now, when you stop trying, when you stop reaching out, don't expect an immediate reaction. People will need time to process. Some will start to realize they've lost someone valuable, someone who brought light into their life, someone who cared deeply. And others, they won't. But here's the truth. Their response doesn't matter as much as your decision to prioritize yourself. Because this isn't about them, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your energy, your focus, and your dignity. It's about setting boundaries and sticking to them. It's about saying, I won't settle for less than I deserve. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. That's knowing that you are worthy of the same effort, care, and love you give so freely to others. Sometimes people will come back. They'll realize they made a mistake. They'll recognize the value you brought to their life and try to make things right. And in those moments, you have a choice. You can let them back in, but only if their actions prove they've changed. Only if their actions align with their words. Because forgiveness is a gift, but it doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean allowing someone to hurt you the same way twice. Other times, they won't come back. And that's okay too. That's a blessing in disguise. Because if someone can't recognize your worth, if someone can't appreciate the love, energy, and support you bring to the table, then they don't deserve a seat at that table. Let them go. Let them learn their lessons on their own. And trust that the right people, the ones who see you for who you are and value you for it, will find their way into your life. And let's be real, this isn't easy. Pulling back, letting go, embracing silence, it's not easy. It takes courage, it takes strength, it takes faith in yourself. But the reward, the peace, the clarity, the freedom you gain, it's worth it. Because when you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you stop giving all your energy to people who don't deserve it, silence doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're giving up. 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 It does It means you're choosing to let your actions, or in this case, your lack of action, speak for you. It means you're choosing to prioritize yourself. And that choice, that's the most powerful choice you can make. When you stop trying to contact someone who has been taking you for granted, you're not just showing them that you're done, you're showing yourself that you're enough. You're showing yourself that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion, actions, or attention. You're showing yourself that you deserve peace, respect, and reciprocity. And let me tell you something else. Silence has a ripple effect. When you pull back, people start to question themselves. They start to wonder why you stopped. They start to reflect on their own actions, their own shortcomings. And sometimes that reflection leads to growth. Sometimes your silence can be the catalyst for someone else's transformation. But even if it's not, even if they don't change, even if they don't come back, that's okay. Because the real transformation is happening in you. You're growing, you're learning, you're becoming stronger, wiser, and more in tune with what you need and deserve. So, let silence be your strength. Let it be your declaration of self-worth. Let it be the boundary that protects your peace. And remember, silence isn't the absence of communication, it's a powerful form of it. It's saying, without words, I choose me. And that choice, that's everything. When you find the courage to pause, to step back, to stop running after what you think you need, something extraordinary happens. It's as if the world slows down, the noise quiets, and you begin to hear your own voice again. The one that's been drowned out by the chaos of trying to prove yourself, to fix things, to hold on to what doesn't serve you. In that stillness, you discover the power of reflection. You see, stepping back isn't about giving up. It's about gaining perspective. It's about recognizing that you don't need to chase what was never meant to be yours in the first place. Sometimes the very act of stepping away can reveal the truth in ways that staying ever could. Because when you're constantly reaching out, constantly trying to make something work, you blind yourself to reality. You get so caught up in the effort that you fail to see what's right in front of you. And here's the truth. The people and things that are truly meant for you don't require you to sacrifice your peace or your dignity to keep them. What's meant for you will meet you halfway. It won't make you question your worth. It won't leave you feeling like you're not enough. Now, this isn't easy to accept. It's human nature to want to fix things, to make them work, to cling to the idea of how we think things should be. But life doesn't operate on our timelines or our expectations. It operates on truth. And the truth is, not everything you lose is a loss. Sometimes what feels like rejection is protection. Sometimes what feels like the end is just a new beginning, waiting for you to take the first step. When you stop trying, when you pull back your energy from people who don't value it, you give them space to show you who they really are. You give them the opportunity to step up or step out. And let me tell you something, both outcomes are blessings. If they step up, it means they recognize your worth and are willing to meet you where you are. But if they step out, it's a sign they were never meant to be in your life for the long haul. Either way, you win, because you're no longer wasting your energy on something that isn't aligned with your purpose. And let's talk about energy for a moment, because it's one of the most valuable resources you have. Your energy is sacred. It's what fuels your dreams, your passions, your growth. And yet, how often do we give it away to people and situations that drain us instead of filling us up? How often do we spend our days trying to please others, trying to prove our worth, trying to hold on to things that were never meant for us? It's exhausting, isn't it? And for what? So someone else can feel comfortable while you're left feeling depleted? That's why pulling back isn't just a choice, it's a necessity. It's an act of self-love, of self-respect. It's saying, I refuse to pour into something that doesn't pour back into me. And that's not selfish, that's survival. Because you can't be everything to everyone and still have something left for yourself. You can't light up the world if your own fire has burned out. When you pull back, when you focus on yourself, you start to notice things you didn't see before. You start to realize just how much you've been tolerating, how much you've been settling for, how much you've been sacrificing for the sake of keeping the peace or maintaining an illusion. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you realize how much more you deserve, you can't go back to accepting less. That's the power of pulling back. It awakens you to your own worth. But let me be clear, pulling back doesn't mean you're giving up. It doesn't mean you're weak or afraid. On the contrary, it takes immense strength to step away from what isn't serving you, to trust that something better is on the horizon, even when you can't see it yet. It takes courage to say, I deserve more, and to act on it. And that courage, that's what will carry you forward. That's what will lead you to the life you were always meant to live. And let me tell you something else. When you stop chasing, when you stop trying to force connections or outcomes, something incredible happens. You start to attract what's meant for you. You start to draw in people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your energy, your values, your vision. Because when you're no longer consumed by trying to fit into someone else's mold or meet someone else's expectations, you make room for what truly belongs to you. You make room for the kind of love, success, and happiness that doesn't require you to shrink or compromise. But you have to be willing to let go. You have to be willing to trust that what's meant for you won't pass you by. And trust isn't easy. It requires faith, patience, and a whole lot of resilience. But here's the thing. When you trust the process, when you trust yourself, you create a life that's built on authenticity and alignment, not fear or desperation. And that kind of life, that's where true freedom lies. Until next time. So don't be afraid to pull back. Don't be afraid to stop trying, to let go, to focus on yourself. Because when you do, you're not just walking away from what isn't meant for you, you're walking towards something greater, something that honors your worth, your energy, your spirit. And that's worth everything. When you decide to stop chasing, when you finally draw that line in the sand and refuse to fight for people who aren't fighting for you, something profound happens. It's as though the weight you've been carrying begins to lift piece by piece. That heaviness that sat on your chest, that drained your spirit, starts to dissolve. And in its place, there's clarity. There's freedom. Because the moment you stop seeking validation from those who can't see your value, you start to rediscover the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. It's not easy to reach that point, though. Let's not pretend it is. There's a reason we hold on so tightly to the things and people that hurt us. It's because deep down, we're wired to believe that if we just try a little harder, if we just give a little more, if we sacrifice just one more piece of ourselves, maybe, just maybe, we'll be enough. Maybe they'll finally see us. Maybe they'll finally give back what we've been pouring out all along. But the truth, the hard, gut-wrenching truth, some people will never see your worth, no matter how brightly you shine. And that's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them. The moment you realize that is the moment you take your power back. You see, the problem isn't that you're not good enough. The problem isn't that you're too much or not enough or any of the lies you've been telling yourself. The problem is that you've been giving your energy, your love, your time to people who don't know how to value it. People who see what you bring to the table and take it for granted. People who are so wrapped up in their own insecurities, their own chaos, that they can't meet you where you are. And that's not your responsibility to fix. There's this beautiful thing that happens when you stop trying to force connections with people who can't or won't match your energy. You start to notice the kind of peace that comes from within. You start to understand that your worth isn't determined by who stays or who goes. It's not determined by whether someone chooses you or not. Your worth is innate. It's yours. And no one can take it from you unless you hand it over willingly. And let me tell you something. You've been handing it over for far too long. When you stop trying to please people who only see your effort as their convenience, you give yourself the space to grow. You give yourself permission to focus on what really matters, your dreams, your goals, your well-being. You start pouring all that energy you used to waste on ungrateful people into yourself. And that's when the magic happens. That's when you start to glow differently. That's when you start to attract the kind of people and opportunities that align with the best version of you. It's not about being selfish, it's about being self-aware. It's about realizing that you can't keep setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. You can't keep sacrificing your happiness, your peace, your mental health for the sake of people who don't even appreciate it. Because what does that leave you with? An empty cup, a hollow version of yourself. And that's not living, that's surviving. And you were meant for so much more than just survival. When you decide to stop trying, when you finally let go, you're not giving up, you're leveling up. You're saying, I refuse to beg for love, for respect, for attention. You're saying, I know my worth, and I'm not settling for anything less than what I deserve. And that kind of mindset, that kind of strength, it's intimidating to the people who benefited from your doubt. It's threatening to the ones who thrived off your insecurity. But that's not your problem. Your job isn't to make other people comfortable. It's to live your truth, unapologetically. And here's the thing about the people who couldn't see your value when you were bending over backward for them. They'll see it once you're gone. They'll feel it in your absence. They'll notice the silence where your voice used to be, the void where your energy used to fill the room. And that's not about revenge. It's about realization. Because sometimes losing someone who gave them everything is the only way they'll understand what they had. But by the time they figure it out, you'll be long gone. And that's okay. That's exactly how it should be. This is your time to step into your power, to stop apologizing for wanting more, for needing more, for being more, to stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. Because the people who truly love you, the ones who are meant to be in your life, won't need you to shrink. They'll celebrate your shine. They'll rise to meet you where you are, not expect you to come down to their level. It's time to choose yourself, to invest in yourself, to stop wasting your energy on people who can't or won't reciprocate. Because the truth is, you deserve relationships that feel like home. You deserve people who see your worth without you having to prove it. And those people, they're out there, but you'll never find them if you're too busy chasing the ones who aren't meant to stay. So, take that step back, pull your energy back, focus on yourself, on your growth, on your healing. Because when you do, you'll realize that the peace you've been searching for was within you all along. It wasn't in their validation or their approval. It was in your own self-love. And that's the most powerful thing of all. This isn't about paranoia or living in fear. It's about stepping into your power, trusting yourself, and knowing that your time, your energy, and your heart are sacred. You don't need to second guess or chase clarity. It's already there if you're willing to look closely. Protect your peace. Surround yourself with people whose intentions align with your values. And most importantly, remember this. You're not just worthy of love. You're worthy of honest, pure, and unwavering love.